Hey, welcome to this fun episode that has been a long time in the works of me and my three most influential teachers. So I'm so excited to bring them all to you. I have Maura Bertotti, Joanne Kelleher, and Janet Henson-Rosiak. And yeah, it's crazy. So I'm just so happy to have you guys here. So I don't know, I never directed an episode with more than one person before, so we'll see how this goes. But just real quick to give, I've talked about all of you at different times, but in the process of my own spiritual journey, Janet came first. It was 2003. We met in craniosacral and we were just table mates and we clicked. And then we took the second class together. And then I was just like in touch with you and friends with you. And then in 2008, I had like that spiritual calling. And then all of a sudden, Janet sends me a message saying, hey, I'm teaching this class on theta healing in a couple of weeks. And I was like, oh my God, that's exactly what I've been looking for. And so that was 2000, at the end of 2008, beginning of 2009. So that's where Janet stepped into my life. And then Maura came in next in like 2010, I think, when I started going to the sound healing. And then actually, no, Maura was first, sound healing was second. So I was looking for some kind of spiritual community, and Maura was offering a class on angel card reading. So I took her class, and I remember feeling especially connected to her as a teacher more than I did to the classmates. So, and then from there, that's when the sound healing came into. And then in 2012 is when Joanne came into the picture with my husband's research for his sociology degree on, was it cults or something like that? And he was looking into the spiritual community because I was an easy access. And he was looking through the yellow pages and found Joanne's business in Toms River at the time. And he's like, oh, you probably have heard of her before, right? And I said, no, actually I haven't. So my husband, my skeptic atheist husband, is who connected me to Joanne. So thank you guys so much. It has been, we've been trying to get together since July, I think. So this finally worked out now. But so I don't even know how to begin. So I guess you want to just say your name and like a little bit about yourself, and we'll go down that way. So Janet, I'll do it in the time order.
I knew you were going to do that. And that's the thing. So I just want to tell you, I did this for my little girl. I went back and just all I wrote was like, what the heck? When did I even start? And thank you, Karen, for helping me realize how experienced I am. It was like the 80s. So, all right. So I'm Janet Henson-Rosiak. And yeah, ever since I was a little girl, I was interested in all things magical, which I remembered, had a lot of memories come back later. And now I pretty much do for a living what I did as a little girl, making my magic potions and making my magic wands and healing and changing and creating magic. So my journey started like 85, like mid 85. Mm-hmm. And first I went more traditional, massage and Silva method, if anybody.
Whoa.
Silva mind control. It was mind
Somebody
control. They had to change it because people thought we were controlling other people's minds. That would be kind of cool, but no. Yeah, and then it just progressed. And I, like you said, Joanne, we are just like constantly evolving and changing and remembering. That's my big thing, that we're awakening, but it's a remembering, right? And so I guess I'll just, I mean, Karen, I don't know what yeah, we all could talk and talk and talk, right? So now I do lots and lots of different things, modalities, including, like you said, theta healing, angels, mediumship, working one-on-one, opening people's gifts, helping people actually do this for a living. And it's just a huge blessing.
It's the best. And like I share one of my favorite stories with Joanne, with Janet. See, gosh, your names, Joanne and Janet. One of my favorite magical stories with Janet was the $20 bill that just appeared in the middle of the air when I was sitting with her. Actually, first it showed up in my wallet. I had two $20 bills that showed up that weren't there when I, had left my house. I went to pay her and I had one extra 20 in my wallet. And I was like, hey, there's an extra 20 here. And she just kind of went, that's how this works. Like, you're doing the work, you're going to be provided for. And then as we were in awe about that, another $20 bill seriously came out of thin air. Did not see where it originated from, but it fluttered down like a leaf and it landed on my hands while I was holding my wallet. So that was, I like Maura's face.
I
So
know, crazy,
Every
right?
day,
and you
every
kind of
day.
Magic happens.
magic happens. It was
I'm trying, and I'm trying what my journey is right now. So any of you guys now or later, if you have any you know, insight or whatever you want to give me, it is still that I'm finally ready. It's about finding the way in human language, right? To put out there, what is it that I do, not the modalities, but, and my website is Awakening the Magic, which don't go to it right now. It's not working well. But it's because that's what I feel like I really want to do. Like Karen, you know, all the different things that have happened. And I want people to wake up to be able to experience that from whatever that means in their life, right? To know that magic is real. It is everywhere and in so many ways. So
it's amazing. And
I
then
love that story. I hadn't thought about that in forever.
yeah, that was like, I remember my best friend being like, I believe you, because why wouldn't I believe you? But if you weren't you, I wouldn't believe it, you know, like it was really intense, like, oh wow, you know.
Yeah.
Another favorite story I recently told to somebody was how Maura and Joanne both picked up on my move when I knew I wanted to move and things were taking so long. And Maura saw, she's like, I saw it all wrapped up with a red bow, like for Christmas. And then I saw Joanne like the day before the deal fell through, and the day in 2 days before it came back together again with a new buyer. It was terribly stressful. But Joanne also was like, but I still see your front door, but I don't like the people, but I still see your front door. So she knew I was going to move. And Maura had the vision of the red bow at Christmas. So it's like, you guys have been like a support team for me like for many, many years. So yeah, that magic is totally real. And I love hearing it from all of the different angles, you know, especially when you're like upside down and confused and you have like, at least I have a resource team to call on when things are crazy. So how about you, Maura? Like, when did you get started? Because like Janet was saying, and I remember you have other stories, Janet, about your third eye and a scar and all that stuff that was kind of wild and stuff when you were younger. And I know that you made magic potions and you had wands and sticks and mud and stuff like that. But I didn't have a magical like upbringing necessarily where I had like a recall or people shut me down or anything like that. But I'm curious, Maura, did you have little kid things happen? Because I don't know that I know your stories from then.
So I'm Maura, and I'm so happy to be here. I'm so excited. And you know, the four of us, it's so funny that you say like you checked in with each of us, but we don't check in with each other because we are separate from that, but yet we support each other energetically. So I really am grateful to be here and honored to be part of this. It's like being with four powerful energies that are like shazamming. So
No, it's the fourth time.
and this is the fourth time, you're right. The other times all fell through, but you know, we plan, right? And the universe laughs, and now this is the perfect timing. But when I was young, I was brought up Roman Catholic, and it was like a strict upbringing in that regard, but I also had all this magical stuff going on. My mother used to say, can you be anything else for Halloween other than a gypsy or a witch? Anything. And I'm like, no. Every time, had to have a crystal ball, had to have my bandana, my hoop earrings, had to have sticks in the park, always a stick, always a wand, right? Always magic. And so, and I always got things intuitively. And my mother did too, and my grandmother did too, but they called it a feeling. Like it was just a feeling, and it was always for bad things. Like my mother would go just like this, and then the phone would ring, and it was always bad news. And so she knew, but because of the acceptance then and whatever, it wasn't talked about too much. And of course, my father being the get the hell, he was a longshoreman. So it was like the whole angry, get out of here, not believing that stuff. So it wasn't supported. But I always felt something else. And then really when it came to light for me was when I was 36 and my mother died. She was sick for 2 years and struggling terribly, and being with her on that journey of her suffering just changed everything for me. And when she died, I needed to find another, where was she? Like, where's my mother? Because the answer, she's with God, just, you know, no offense to God, but I'm like, where is she? I need my mommy, that kind of thing. So my grief is what propelled me to start to look more into things about our soul and our spirit and all those teachings. And that's how I got into mediumship and angel channeling and all those things, and then proceeded to open holistic centers at the Jersey Shore I was working in New York for 20 years, doing the hustle in New York when Spirit kept telling me, you're moving to Jersey Shore. And I was like, yeah, no, someday. Like, I wouldn't do it because I never listen. I'm a tourist. I'm like, la, la, la. And they flooded my whole house. And I say they because I know it was spiritual. And there's Maura with her stubborn self. And I fixed it all up. And they flooded it again. And then I said, I'll go. Like, it takes a lot for us to surrender, right? So then I moved down here. And then that house has been peaceful ever since up there. And I started doing the work down here. And then that led me on so many different things, psychic development and things of that nature. And then the pandemic like affected all of us. I closed the doors, did some stuff online, but I went on my own personal journey. I had gained so much weight. I was 350 pounds. I've lost 150, 160 pounds now. And that put me on this new part of the journey, which is teaching other people about weight loss, health, and healing, especially for women. And so it has been quite a ride, quite a ride.
That's awesome. And thank you. And Joanne, and I don't know what your, like, did you have childhood things happening where you were picking up on stuff, or what led you to where you're at?
Yeah, I don't think you know my story. Well, I'm private. I'm a pretty private person when it comes to stuff, but so this is odd for me. I always knew I knew. I always knew, like tiny. I guess as soon as I could vocalize. And then I was told not to say the things I knew. So mine wasn't as accepting as Maura's family, unfortunately. Probably a lot more traumatic. But so we'll skip, a lot of years. A lot of years. I raised my family and I worked in corporate like Maura. And then, but I always read because nobody could stop me from reading. So I did all health food stuff since I was little. I did my notions. I always did herbs. I started reading Edgar Cayce at 13, 14 years old and just did my own private. Everything about this was always private because it was very unaccepted. I'm 63. I don't know if that puts it into perspective, and a very culturally strange family. So, yeah, I had to do it privately. And I guess in the 90s, I did advanced certified hypnosis but I was still working corporate, raising the kids, this and that. And then I waited for my kids to graduate, and everything before I said, now I'm done with all that. I waited and waited. And then it's funny because that was a while ago and people look at who you are today. And I could say this to both Janet and Maura, and they go, oh, I want what you got. But they don't know who we were when we first started. And it wasn't all, and I always say that, don't quit your day job. Don't do this, don't do that. Like there's a lot of trial and error. There's a lot of personal healing, transitions and things like that. And it's not for the faint of heart, but initially I'd have to say what brought me, I know Maura's was grief. I probably had a little bit of that. I think we all had a little bit of that, but I would have to say mine was, I have like a real firm faith center. And when I got into spirituality, it was a vehicle for me to be my faith self in a generic way without being or anything else. I can funnel it through that, all of the love, all the compassion, all that. It was a place for me to put it and love what I'm doing. So I never call it work. I call it the work, but works, but not in the sense of the word works, but I never call it work. I love what I do and I'll do it till I die in one way or the other. But it's just my joyfulness. I love it. But it's a way of funneling my faith into doing something in a very generic, broad way. If that makes sense.
And what drew me to you initially when I learned about you was that you did massage at the time and Reiki. And I was like, oh, finally somebody who does massage and Reiki. And Janet, you also were massage certified, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I hated massage. I did it for like 6 months, hated it. but it gave
The view.
clout.
Yeah.
It gave clout. And as soon as my shoulders went out, double rotator cuff, the universe said, "You're not doing this." And I said, good. These are the answers. Everything just comes, and it's like, okay, now we're going this way. So that, that's, and if you allow, it makes life so much easier. So don't fret, Car, because you're going to be funded, by the way, because that was your word, not mine.
Okay. Yeah. For my future endeavor.
Not even funding.
Yeah.
It's not funding you need.
Before we hit record about this next venture that I was considering, and it has to do with like sound, light, and vibrational healing, which I've been in alignment with the whole time. So this thing is called a harmonic egg, and I'm looking to, learn more about it and maybe open something with that. But that's like so far away. But yeah.
No, it's not.
Look, all your people are yelling at you simultaneously.
February. Is anybody else hearing it? February.
Delete. Don't say far away.
Well, yeah, it's a big deal, and it's a new venture, so I'm like hardly even have words for it, but I'm just learning right now. That's so fun. I love you guys so much. This is so fun. So yeah, I'm like, what was I going to say? Okay, so I remember I wrote down a list of questions to share with you in advance in case you needed some structure. So I still have that list, and it's here. And we just look through it. Yeah. Yes, go ahead.
When these guys were talking, I realized something, just to toss in like a little extra, just because of people seeing that like all different, it starts and ends and moves in all different ways. So I said I did all that as a child, and I did, but I also shut it down and completely forgot that until I was in doing the work. And my sisters, of all people, were like, yeah, don't you remember? You used to walk around and pick little flowers and peel seeds. And I was just like, oh my goodness, no. And my reason for actually starting to do it as work was when in my early 20s, I got a diagnosis of a degenerative arthritis in my feet. And I went to a top specialist who basically told me to prepare for in 2 to 3 years, I'd need an assistive device. And within 5 years, I might be in a chair. And I cried the whole way home, except I was also thinking, I did not believe it, but I was just like, but it can be changed. It can be changed. And I had just found Louise Hay, and I went to my sister's in Florida because it was a cheap vacation. And I took that book and I did that all week long. And by the end of that week, my foot pain was gone.
Wow.
And I just felt like I have to share this. I have to figure out how to share that this is possible to people. Yeah. So it's like all different ways. And yet, like Joanne said, just follow that flow, take the next step.
Well, and it's funny you're saying that, because even what Joanne said, like, how did we get here? Just yesterday, I said to somebody, they were like, I didn't float there like you did, like on the light of an angel. And I said, or we crawled over broken shards of glass to get here, just in case your imagery is that somebody dropped us off like a stork carrying a baby on top of the mountain and you're here. It doesn't work that way. So I think it's a good thing to remind people that we go through very difficult times, and our families, even different people in our families, are not always supportive. I have a brother that barely speaks to me, and he does not condone anything that I do. So it's difficult. And then I have other siblings that are fully supportive or won't take a side, or there's just different things. And so we all have to really hone in to follow that intuition, which is what we're teaching other people to do. But we had to do it too first before we could teach other people to do it.
Yeah, my dad wouldn't let me go to school for art because it wasn't a real job. Now from the other side, he just smiles and is like, sorry. Oh, and Maura, we have to talk another time because I too had to have multiple floods.
See, we don't listen.
I remember that.
It's terrible, listeners.
Feeling, right? You're feeling
oh my God, the ceiling came down 3 times.
My shoe was floating across the floor, and this fireman was in the house, and he goes, "It's time." I go, "For what?" He said, "To evacuate." I was so in shock. Like, the second time, of course, was worse, because if you're not going to listen, they're going to send a bigger storm. So I do much better, not completely, but much better listening. Much better.
And you guys are all Jersey girls. So Maura's from Hoboken originally. Joanne, you're from up north somewhere, and now you're in Central Jersey.
Elizabeth.
You're
Yeah.
from Elizabeth. And Janet, were you in Pennsylvania before, right?
Yeah, a little steel town outside of Pittsburgh.
Yeah, that's what I thought. But now you're in Jersey.
Yep, the husband.
So I'm so glad that I ended up in South Jersey, like, because my own journey, when Greg and I got married, we ended up living down the shore, and it was sad because after I moved away, like 3 months after I moved away, my mom got sick with her autoimmune disease, and I was 100 miles from her. But I know that was in a way protecting me, because my parents probably would have sucked me dry if I was within reach. Even though it sucked to be away from her, it made visits more special. And then if I wasn't in South Jersey, I wouldn't have taken that craniosacral class in Atlantic City West with you, Janet. And then I wouldn't have had, all of the connections of the middle to Southern New Jersey that I had. And you guys wouldn't have been my teachers necessarily, so I love the divine orchestration of everything. I don't know. It's just amazing. So, I don't even know what I want to ask you. Is there anything else that popped to mind?
I just wanted to say, you keep mentioning, which thank you, but how much we are support and your teachers and all of that. But I can only speak for me, but I feel like I could speak for those guys too. You are the same for us. I mean, you've done sessions for me, and like, you don't believe when I tell you like how mind-blowing and life-changing something was, So I just wanted to put that back to you. And
I also great because I do my SOS texts to Karen.
yeah.
She sends out all her Shazamming, and it's so helpful. And we all each probably have our own language with her, like pictures or texts or whatever it is. And to me, it's amazing. And that's how you build a posse that you can rely on. And it's funny, Janet, you said about wording, like you just want to, if anybody has input on wording, and that used to, and it does still sometimes, I get stuck on that and I go to Spirit and I'm like, because I did Reiki sessions for years and we knew they weren't just Reiki.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much more that comes in, divine spirit guides and energy and healing and stuff. And so we try on one hand to balance, right, what the public can absorb to what we want to market, but there really aren't any words that fit. So we're doing our best, I think. I don't have the answer for that either.
I think Maura, you gave me one of my first Reiki sessions. Like, I learned Reiki from Janet. I took Reiki 1 and 2 with Janet because I had just learned Theta for that whole year of 2009. And I took as many classes as you're offering that year. I think there was 4 of them. And that really propelled me. I always tell everybody that really catapulted me. And I'm sure because of the advanced Theta class, and I forget what other classes we took, but the clearing of the limiting beliefs, I think, are really what was responsible for catapulting me so fast and so far. Because I know that the standard healer blockages that happen, and I felt like I kind of sailed through a lot of that because of the work of the Theta. But then I was like, well, how do I bring that esoteric metaphysical understanding of things to my massage clients? And so I was like, maybe I should learn Reiki, because people tell me I do Reiki. And then right after I made that declaration, Janet sends an email, I'm teaching Reiki in 2 weeks. I was like, are you serious? So I took Reiki 1 and 2 with you. But I think the first time I paid for a session and was on someone's table was Maura's at the where the sound healing was. So then I remember you being like, well, because you're I can tell you the no holds barred version of what I was saying.
All who are here.
Yeah.
All that's happening.
Yeah. So then it was a little while later before I took Reiki 3. Oh, I took Reiki 3 with a different teacher, but then I took Reiki master level with Joanne. So it's just been, it's been so nice to have so much different support and guidance, and insights. The one thing I thought, remember we were like, well, I wonder what's the holdup? Like, what's the universe having planned for us? Like, why is this keep getting canceled? Like, one of us would have to cancel for this podcast meeting. And I don't know if it's too raw and too sensitive, but this is what came to mind for me. Both Janet and Joanne had animals that passed in that window. And I don't know if it's too soon. I know it's like too soon. Yeah, Joanne had just adopted a dog, and it passed really fast. And Janet had a cat for 20 years. So you guys are different levels of years long with the animals, but they were just very powerful. So Yeah, if it's too hard, never mind. Don't worry about it.
No, I mean, it's not too hard as long as you don't mind if I start to cry. And I know you guys don't. No, but I was feeling that myself, that for me, there was a piece of that. Things are definitely, yeah. I mean, and remember, he was around for the second time. So it was really like 40 years with that
Oh, really?
being, yeah. And he's coming back. And that's not a hoping. That's actually, I have this great peace. And if I don't, it's fine. It's all fine. But I think so. So did you want to ask it something about
No,
that?
I wasn't
I
sure
feel
what,
like he's actually here right now, like totally here.
his name is Gandalf. What's his name? Gandalf before?
Yeah. Well, if you know Lord of the Rings,
Yeah. Not
yeah,
well.
Wizard is Gandalf the Grey in the beginning.
Mhm.
And
But he really passed also, the actor, correct?
Yeah.
In real life.
Mhm. And
Correct?
Gandalf, so he was Gandalf the Grey, and he actually picked his name. That's a whole different story. But as a speech pathologist, I knew how to say things. So
That
and
was
he
my major
corrected
in college. How
And
weird.
speech pathology was
Yeah.
Joanne's major. She said, and when I was in high school, every time I took career tests, it always said speech pathology.
Because what do? We communicate, right? It's all communication. Now it's just with all realms and the divine and all
It has
that.
to do with hearing, listening, observing, watching, and
100%.
language and
Yeah,
semantics. And oh God, that's too funny.
yeah.
Well, this might sound totally left field, but I went to Brookdale because I wanted to learn sign language because I felt like nobody was doing readings in sign language. And I have to tell you, I failed miserably. I passed the class, but it was so hard and I couldn't do it. All I know how to do is spell my name, and that's it. And I thought it would be so great if people were doing readings in sign language, again, another type of language, but it couldn't be me. So I just
Gosh, I never now more. Now you're making me think. Oh, I was gonna become like a legal interpreter. I worked with hearing impaired kids.
really,
And now hearing impaired is not the right word, but back then that's what it was. But yeah, I signed. I loved signing.
I
loved
want to sign
signing.
so badly and I can't do it.
Was
Maybe
obsessed with sign
pick
language.
it up again. Maybe we can be buddies.
I would totally do that.
When I was younger, my parents would, during the summers, we went to the cathedral in St. Augustine for our Sunday mass, and that one of the masses, maybe all of them, I don't know, but there was a sign language, and I was just obsessed with that. And I think Jesus, they would do like J for Jesus, but like, I just remember like that was like my entertainment.
Okay.
So it's not just me.
Really funny. What a fun thing. Yeah.
But you do something like with it, right? So for me, it was J and my dimples. That was my name.
Yeah.
Song.
Oh,
Okay.
Mine, I would just go right to my heart. Yeah.
There you
So.
go.
Mhm.
That's a fun discovery.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry to interrupt, but that was just too serendipitous. Go ahead.
Okay, so quickly. So in Gandalf in the Lord of the Rings, he battles evil, and so his human body does die in that, but he comes back as Gandalf the White. And so when Gandalf the Grey lived like 23 years, 22, 23 years, and then I really, really wanted him to come back. And there was this whole thing going on about I needed to do this and do this and do this. And it was about move forward with this because I was having a lot of doubt and fear, and that then he would come back. And so I did, I moved forward, and it's just a crazy whole story for another time, but how we found him and how he made himself known as Gandalf was amazing. And my sister, who at the time didn't believe any of this stuff, she had a dream. What did I dream? Your cat went up a pole gray and he came back down gray and white. What is going on? Things like that. And our little neighbor girl, he was a little feral guy the second time, and he looked just the same from here, but when he lifted up, he had white. And she kept coming over and she would be like, "Hi, sweetie, he's so cute, Miss Janet, but he's not Gandhi." And then one day, right as Mike and I were feeling like he's back, he's fully in, she came and she was like, "Oh, there you are." And it was just like the most amazing thing. It's been the most amazing thing. And yeah, this time it was 20 years. So
I remember that neighbor girl. She must be an adult now, but
she's a psychologist now. I know. Oh my goodness.
It was
Yeah.
very magical. I don't remember the stories, but I remember that she was a magical, sweet little girl.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for me, my dog, he was with me for 15 years. And I had another dog that was with me 14 years. And then I had this dog, not the same spirit. But I can't have him come back because my heart shattered in so many pieces that I just can't let myself do that again. He's been gone 5 years and I started crying when you brought up animals. It's just so hard. It's so hard. There are children or there are family there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Absolutely.
forget his name, but I remember what he looked like. What was his name?
Scrappy.
Scrappy.
He's a white Westie. He's just beautiful. He was my spirit dog, and he was a healer dog. If somebody was in the house that didn't feel good, he'd go right to them and lay next to them, and you could just feel his healing energy. He was just everything. I just can't even talk about him.
I don't know if I told you, Maura, but there was a cancer patient that came to my space, 17. Like they're calling him terminal, and I was like, stop calling him terminal. Like
That's what
so,
they do.
and I asked if it was okay, that he can come into my space, like, is he mobile enough? And they said, yeah. But before he arrived, like his mom was helping him out of the car, Trixie ran out and greeted him. Trixie never leaves my store without me leading the way. And I was like, oh, this is so special. She's greeting you. And the child was not, was very sad. And he's sitting there while his mom's filling out the intake form. And Trixie is forcing him to pet her. Eventually he couldn't resist because he had to, because she would insist on it. And I cried while I was watching him pet her. And when I first started working on him, I heard there's hope for him. There's hope for this boy. And I was just like, oh my God. So, and they've agreed to bring him again. But like, this is why I'm interested in these other healing modalities too. Like anything that we can do to get the body to rest and relax and restore, it can heal itself. It can be miraculous. And as you guys probably remember the story of Grace when she broke her tooth when she was 10. And like, that was there. Everyone's like, oh, the x-ray shows it. And I was like, no, la, 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 la. And then the next day they're like, we can't get the x-ray to match what it looked like yesterday. Yesterday it was broken. I was like, yeah, how about that?
How about that?
So, do you guys have any cool stories like that of like clients where you're like, oh my God, like tumors shrinking or like bones healing or things like that don't make sense happening? I'm sure you probably do, but if you have any that jump out at you, please share them.
So
Yeah,
I have something that's not a healing in a human that I feel like I'm supposed to share, because yes, swelling, yes, tumors.
Mm-hmm.
But do you remember my car? Because I think, and it's so good, I think, for me, having stories of real things happening that you hear from real people that it happened to them, it just goes even deeper into the belief that really anything is possible. So my car, I have a convertible. It's not that great in the rain even. And I was driving and I hit a patch of ice in the development. And my car spun out and it's low to the ground and it hit the curb and it went up on the curb. And you know how you can hear the crunching, like you hear the car crushing. And I just sat there and just started to say, undo, 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 undo. And I felt like, I don't know, spirit was coming through me. And it wasn't to save the car. It was for me to have the experience of miracles that are like right in front of your eyes. No way is this possible, right? So, and I felt myself get, like you do with a client, like just so laser focused. Like that's all I was doing, was just believing and saying, undo, 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 undo. And I took the car off of the curb, drove it off, drove home. It was just a few blocks, pulled into the driveway. And of course I was really shaken. And I sat there, I started to get out and something literally stopped me. And I thought, I still don't believe, I still have fear. And I did it again until everything was just peaceful. I got out, there wasn't a scratch on that car, not a single scratch. I mean, and I heard that awful, horrible crunching sound. Yeah. So
I have the same story though. How crazy is that? The
Maura.
same story almost. My car hit a patch of ice and it turned this way that I could see the cars on the highway coming. They were far, but I could see them. I was scared to death. My car turned, hit into the wall. Bang, 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 smash, smash, smash. I was scared to death. I kept driving. It was Christmas night because I left from down the shore to go up north. And I just kept driving and I was so shaken. I was like, the whole side of the car smashed. I heard it crash, 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 crash. And I was like, I just have to deal with it when I got home. And I got home and parked and I sat in the car for a minute. I was so shaken. And I get out and I had called on the angels. I was like, the angels help me. There was not a scratch on my car. And I said,
Maura.
what did you do? Throw an angel in between the car and the wall? And like, it just wasn't, it didn't exist. I heard it. I like you heard it. I have no explanation except it was for us to believe so that we can, and other people say, yeah, right. But I don't need them to believe or understand. We do, but no explanation, no human explanation for that.
Yeah, 1000%. That doesn't surprise me after the flood story. I was like, what?
Both have floods, both have accidents or non-accident accidents.
Right, right. Very purposeful.
Joanne, do you have anything that popped to mind?
Well, the one in I had a couple years ago, I mean, I was sandwiched, so my car looked like an accordion. And not that it wasn't damaged like yours, but I didn't have an ache, a pain, or nothing. I don't even know how. I shouldn't have survived it. Neither should the other people. No one was hurt. No one. And drove the car home. I mean, different. The whole thing was rebuilt. The only thing original is the two doors. It was smashed like an accordion, but no, I didn't. I have 1,000 of these actually. 1,000 almost daily, but big ones with illnesses, things like that, self-healing, other healing. I wouldn't disclose anybody, but even myself, like, and Karen knows with the trigeminal and with this and with that, it's gone, it's gone, it's gone. It's not supposed to be, but it is.
Dental pain, like my husband was suffering from some dental pain a few weeks ago because he was like in between two procedures and whatever, and Joanne was like, oh, I've had dental pain that I've cleared with like tapping, and then she gets to the dentist and they're like, how are you okay? You should be.
I shouldn't even be thriving. Same thing. I have herniated discs, I have spinal injuries, nothing. I shouldn't be walking, I shouldn't be this. It's not their business, it's mine. You have to learn. And I replaced the word believe with know. It's a much more powerful word. Other people believe, I just know. And then once you're there, that's it. And you could do that for yourself, but you can never presume with a client. Because again, not my business what they do when they leave, but I know what's possible while they're there. I know the potential, but their own thoughts, their own belief systems, that's a different mechanism. So, which we have no authority over, but we can really do some amazing things in that realm if we're allowed to. It's amazing. And yeah, I have probably at least 20 clients that don't have fibromyalgia anymore, don't have this anymore, don't have that. And they think it's me, and I tell them it's not me, it's us, and so on. So
I know a client with MS that she only just had that diagnosis like a couple days before, and I was like, don't own it. Don't own it.
Yep.
Yeah. And then, she was able to baffle the doctors and she was better. So it's so cool.
Can I just tell you something? I think you probably know this, but in past lives, you were this tremendous healer, and in witch like energy, what they would call, but you had to hide all of your gifts and talents, which is why you're so private in this life. You probably know that, right? I'm not telling you anything you don't know.
No, I've been told that, and I know that.
And in more than one life.
There's repeated persecutions, absolutely.
And Janet, you have a lot of royalty. You were in a lot of royal lifetimes that you were
That's nice.
It's
I
just
didn't get
spontaneous, I'm
that.
sorry, but that's, yeah.
Oh, I
No,
love
I was the girl mopping the floor. I know that too.
But what, actually, I don't, that's not what I see. I see they knew where to go for the real powerful healing, but it was kind of literally the picture of in the woods, in the back, like don't tell anybody and you're living some simple life, but the people that knew who you were, they knew who you were. They knew where to go.
Yeah, yeah. I'm pretty sure a lot of healers have that type of background or whatever, of some sort of um challenges, in past lives. Yeah, I know quite a few of mine, and that's absolutely one. I actually have a mark here, like a big beauty mark here. So yeah, probably not a good ending
Yes.
in that particular lifetime. So
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, Joanne helped me, like, I think that you pulled out like the root of the worst of my lives, right, Joanne, with that.
For a couple of doozies, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it was like, it wasn't even, I don't even know that you saw it. You just knew that you pulled out something big and thick kind of a thing. And then like later that night, I had that very colorful dream. And I've talked about it. I don't know what episode it was, but I did talk about it
Oh,
where
I know, I know, I
yeah,
know
it was
which
very
bug you're.
traumatic. And
And I said, I
I'm just
don't
letting
need to
people
tell you.
see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
it's a really interesting subject because part of that, and that's what I'm doing now, but what I want people to understand too is we have energetic imprints from past life traumas that block our healing today. And
Right.
so, of course, I went down the rabbit hole of the weight loss because when you go back to your childhood and then you can't, that's not all the answers. Like you think, okay, well, but there's more than that. And you realize, oh, if I went back when I was certified in past life regression in 2013 in Sedona, which was amazing, by the way, right? Like I thought I'd go to Brian Weiss. He's right here. But as I was researching, it said Little Cherub Angel Institute in Sedona. I was like, that's where I'm supposed to go. I'm doing angel readings, right? So I went there and it was an intensive. It was 12 hours a day for 7 days a week, but we were regressed. Plus we did regressions and it was amazing. But part of those imprints energetically, like how we died or what things were, like you said, Karen, she took out something deep. They block our healing. And so once we can go back and loosen some of that up and let it go, between that and Louise Hay, like, Janet said, it's amazing. It's amazing the healing that's available to us. We just have to, up our belief system a little bit.
It's not even about the story. It is about moving the obstacle. And that's why I told Karen, you don't need to know the story,
Yes.
not all the time, because people then reattach. It's about neutralizing it. And it's Karen can accept that. And she says, I know you know, but you're not going to tell me. I said, I'll tell you when you can know, but because it has to be sometimes 5, 6, 7 months later, especially for what's that?
It's like you don't want to pull it back in, kind of a thing.
You'll reattach. Everybody will. They'll focus on it's human nature, and that's what we do. We study human nature.
In theta healing, they call it brain candy, right? So like when
I call it what?
brain candy, when you're getting
you have to think about like the details of things. Yeah, I was just going to say, and that's why Karen, when you were talking about how you went so quickly, that's why I knew I had to teach theta healing, because I took it as a class and she was like, well, you're actually already doing this, but not in this way. And
I told her that too.
reason to be here, right? Yeah. And yeah, because that work goes into all of like what you were talking about, past lives, other dimensions, DNA, just the myriad of places that these things can be locked in and hidden, And I was going to say to you, Joanne, this is when you were saying, and you mentioned something, Karen, about my forehead, right? My third eye.
Yeah.
I had a scar when I was a little kid, right about the time that I think I shut my third eye down. Remember, they used to have those like little housekeeping sets like Susie Homemaker. I don't know if you guys remember, but I did. And I was mopping the floor and it had just been waxed and I slid and I hit my head on this ornamental carved wood thing and had to have stitches. And then all these things that come together, right? Later found out that from an angelic healer person before I did that there was this like deep root from my mother that was in there as well. and I shut down because my mom died when I was really young, and learning later that I felt like I could have changed that, which of course I couldn't, but as a child, something in there was, So then fast forward, when all of that got healed, released, transformed, whatever word you want to call it, I had no more scar. It just disappeared. And so I love that story because it's really cool. And I said, Joanne, one of these days you'll just be like, oh, whose throat is this?
It's gone. No,
Is it already gone?
well, no, when I get tan, you can't see it
There
because, but even when the tan goes away now, I can't see it the way I did when I was young.
Yeah, exactly.
Not there, yeah.
Exactly. Well, it's like the hands thing that Karen knows that I do, the scientific hand analysis. The lines on your hands, except for your fingerprints, change. Everything on them changes across your life. And I know of a person who, well, a friend of a friend, so I feel like I know she's a real person, had a traumatic accident, traumatic brain injury, was in the hospital for over a year. All the lines on her hands pretty much disappeared. And when she came back through all of that, she was a very different person, not like where, you lose your memory, but just different, very, very different. And she had prints from before, and her handprints were completely different. And she had become a healer, and a lot to go with that, but just amazing the things that are possible.
The magic.
The magic, right? The magic.
I know. Yeah, that was the hand analysis was super cool too. So like,
I love that.
like the whole like pad of ink on your whole hand and looking at each little thing. That was amazing. What's your favorite thing to do now? Like, so you're like,
Whatever I'm doing in the minute. Well, you know what my favorite thing is, that now unless somebody is asking for a specific thing, I combine things and make up my own, well, not make up my own, whatever it comes through me. And so it's somebody a long time ago said to me, when are you going to have the Janet Henson Rosiak school? And I'm like, and what am I going to teach? It's like the Janet Henson Rosiak healing. And it's kind of like, that's what I do now. That's my favorite thing, to be able to just have someone who is like, do what comes, let's do what comes.
just so cool how it just keeps growing, like, and your gifts just keep growing and things just keep plopping into you and different tools or whatever. And I remember in like theta healing and like, I know it's a story you've told about your own psychic development, Janet, with how it was almost like charades with spirit. You're like milk thistle, and like the person needed milk thistle, that's the real thing. And so like the other day I had a client who had urinary tract issue, and I told her like, oh, she had an infection or whatever, and I was like, oh, it's about being pissed. I said, and then I pulled out the theta book and like read a little bit to her, and she was like, oh, maybe I do suppress a lot. I don't know that I suppress a lot, and I was like, yeah, you probably do. And so I was just talking to her with it, whatever, then worked on her. And as I was working on her, I was like, I heard the word ureters, and I know my anatomy. And she's like, I never heard that word before. I'm like, well, that's probably what's inflamed on you right now, because I'm hearing ureters. And then I saw aloe juice, or I heard aloe juice. So I said, I don't know if aloe juice is good for you, if good for UTIs. And then I saw celestite, and I was like, maybe celestite, maybe put some celestite on your like ureters, or like, whatever, integrate celestite into your day. And then I looked up celestite, and it was like, helps remove infection or whatever, you're like, I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just the interpreter. I just receive the information and deliver it. And I had no idea aloe and celestite could be helpful for, UTIs, but apparently they are. So it's just like, you just learn to like trust what you get, the more you're in that flow. So.
Yeah, that's the huge thing, right? To clean out the things that are blocking us being able to not have to function with the rules of this 3D plane, I mean, to be able to let it come through, to say it, even if we don't know what it means, or if we might be wrong. It's amazing the things that come through. Yeah.
Like, that's what I like admire about all of you guys as teachers, is that you're all just so like matter of fact about it, and just like, this is just how it is. And like, just, I don't know, normal and accessible, and like, there's a reason why you guys are my favorite people, you know, because it's like, we all,
So are you, the whole down to earth piece is because you've made it accessible to everyone. You put it in plain language. And
Mhm.
one of my words came up for a new year, and I've repeated it for each year, is simplicity. It has to be simple. We don't have to sugarcoat it, explain it, deliver it a certain way. It's like, if you got milk and thistle, there it is, right? And it's like when I say on, you know, there was a long time that I was kind of suppressed. My mother worked at I always say this story. My mother worked at the church, and my father was a longshoreman. So I'm either praying for you or cursing you out. Like, I don't, there's balance here, right? So somebody called me, I think it was yesterday or whatever, and they said, Maura, you just got finished telling people you were praying for them. And then today it said, you put that joke about, why do you call everybody a fucker? And it's because it's gender neutral. Like, how can you talk like that? I'm like, because this is who I am. And it took a long time for me to accept all those parts of ourselves. But if everybody did that, we would naturally remove some of the blocks of trying to be something that we're not. So simplicity.
right, right.
That's our job, I think, as teachers, that acceptance and making it fun and available, and not, and demystifying it, you know, making it, people go, oh, well, I don't have a gift. You don't need a gift. Just do it. That's it. Keep it simple and just do it. And I don't like to do a lot of talking in class. I just want to do the work. Let's just do it. Let's work on each other. Let's practice. It isn't about, and I know I always say to Karen, you know everything you need to know. And it took you so long to trust that, you know what I mean? And I kept saying, no, 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 you don't need to go here or go there. You already know, you know everything you need to know. And not that I don't believe knowledge is important, but I think we dismiss or diminish all the stuff that is already out here, and all we have to do is pluck it. It's available. So manifest that. And yes, I read books. I couldn't get the book you recommended, Karen, but they sent me another one. The book you recommended was only available on Kindle or whatever. It's not published. Yeah, yeah. But I got
it too, The Horns of the Goddess.
Yeah, no, I didn't get that. I got the 3 waves instead, which is fine. But the other one I'll have to order online because it's not in.
Well, yeah, Maura, that Dolores Cannon. So like, The Horns of the Goddess is a book that they published post-mortem. You know, she was working on it before she passed, while she, passed. And I think she literally died in the library researching it. And she
love books and I love libraries, but I didn't know that.
She was, playing back recordings from the 80s that she was like, the world's not ready for this information yet. But in 2014, right before she passed, she's like, I think the world's finally ready for this information. And it was women or whoever, I think it was mostly women who she was, doing the hypnosis to. And they were all, there was like an overlap of people who were druids. And it's so fucking cool. It's so amazing. It's like the coolest thing ever. And I don't even got to talk about it on the podcast. It's like on my list of topics of things if I ever did. My fall got so busy with all the stupid Board of Ed stuff. So
that would be a good study group. So we have a study group once a month, and we have lots of groups, but that's one. And that would be a good, I would suggest it, for them. But we're booked all the way through. We have enough topics to keep going. And it's just a forum like to talk about, but I wrote it down, but if they can't get it.
And she was talking to, these druids, and it was like, one of those timeline hopping things where basically they were talking to her in the present tense, even though it was the year 600. You're like, oh, my brain. And like, the things that they said were the things that we just do naturally because it's just in us to know it. And to hear like, a druid giving advice about how to do healing work. You're like, hey, I do that. Like, it's the coolest thing. And it was a very like intense book, or I just like sat there with my jaw dropped like the whole time. I was like, this is so amazing. So
can't wait.
I highly recommend it.
But ordered it. It's such the timing, right?
Yeah.
I got it a little while back, but I just ordered it.
Oh, really?
Okay, I gotta get on that.
There's a whole piece with a unicorn in it. I cried with the unicorn. Oh my gosh. And now I see the unicorn in my meditations. I know exactly how its mane feels. It's just the coolest thing. It's as soft as you would think, like you probably all know what a unicorn mane feels. You're like, yeah, that sounds about right. But yeah. So before we hit record, we're like, we should probably make this into a series. But I have a client in a little bit. But I was so grateful to talk with you guys. Thank you so much for, you
This
know.
was so wonderful and healing, because I feel the healing, you know.
I
and
know.
all of
I feel
us
like can we just do this like on a regular basis? Just not necessarily for podcast or recording or anything like that, just to get together and share and chat.
Yeah, I know. Just happy to merge my world. So yeah, I'm glad you guys enjoyed it too.
Oh,
Is there
that's-
any-
I love you all, really, truly. Thank you for having us and for being here, and for each of you bringing your light, because that's what this world needs.
Me
Very
too.
grateful that there's comrades out there doing the same thing. I call you my sister to the north. That's what I call Maura. And if anybody, yeah, and it's just so funny. And it's just knowing. It's like meeting a long, I think this is how it is when you cross over. It's like, oh, I know you, I know you, I know you. And that's what I feel like. Even when certain people walk into your life, you're like, you just know.
Yeah.
And you know I knew that, like where they're gonna go, what they're gonna do, and so on. And I could see the whole thing play out. They haven't put it together yet, but you just know, you feel related in some way.
Mhm.
So yeah, and like I said, we have a really big group, and you wonder, how do we all connect? And I think if we met on a bus, it'd be different. But because we're connecting on that plane, and we come from such different background, not you guys, but I mean all my people in the group and so on. I don't know if we would have organically connected, but because of that level of acceptance that we become the posse, the people that they could be crazy and weird with, they found like a home, and so that's what you each create. You created your group of where they feel at home and comfortable and accepted, and they could share and grow. It's a support mechanism, and you've both created that, and Karen's created that, and I love it. It's wonderful. Lots of little happy fields everywhere.
Yeah,
That's
exactly. And it's like, you're right. It's a safe, loving, happy space. And I think it lets people's souls shine through a little bit. So even if you wouldn't have like walking down the street, meeting on the third plane,
Mhm.
Yeah, this way it's so
Right.
different.
you're seeing more of the real truth. Like, honestly, I swear, I have a very clear memory of the four of us around a cauldron. No doubt about
I'm
it.
so sure.
Right? 1,000%. Like, I mean, I have chills now because like I remember this. Yeah.
Oh wow, you have to fill us in the next time. That'd be fun.
Yeah, because I think there's gonna be a bunch coming today about this because I have such chills. It's just like I opened some little portal. So yeah,
Can't wait to do it again.
yeah, me too. Karen, you're
on the
our
calendar.
leader. You're our fearless leader. Set them up.
I always say she's the next generation, and she's our new voice, and she's gonna keep going. I love that, and that's what we have to do. That's who you are.
Lucky,
You got
lucky
homework.
world.
Karen.
A lot of homework.
You got homework to
Yeah.
do. Yeah.
We're supporting you.
No pressure, but
We're supporting you from here.
go.
Yeah, go for it.
It's true though. It's
Go
true.
get them. We believe in you.
It's good to be young.
Carrying the torch. Okay. Oh my God. You
I'm
guys-
glad I'm not you. No, just kidding.
oh my gosh, my cheeks hurt. I love you guys so much.
Oh, it's so
I
wonderful.
love you all. Thank you.
Thank
all
you so much. And I guess I'll hit stop now, but I wish I could keep going. So yeah, we'll talk again soon. Thank you. Thank you.
Definitely.
Bye, everybody.
Love you guys.
Love you.